Story 1: Love and the Shadow of Karma. Close your eyes and let your breath become slow and soft. Imagine, far away beyond any map, there lies a land shimmering with golden fields and gentle rivers. In that peaceful land lived a wealthy elder, a man whose life overflowed with riches and comforts. His grand house stood under the soft glow of morning light, surrounded by fragrant gardens where white lotuses opened slowly at dawn. Each morning, the wind carried the delicate scent of blooming flowers through his halls, and the sound of birds echoed like soft bells across the courtyard. This elder was not alone. He had 4 wives, each young and radiant in her own way, like 4 stars circling one moon. The first wife was the one he cherished above all. She was his shadow at sunrise, his warmth at dusk. When he rose to greet the day, she was there. When he sat to sip tea, she poured with a smile. When storms came, she comforted him with a quiet touch on his shoulder. He spared no expense, for her silk robes dyed in moonlight, rare perfumes from distant mountains, jewels that shimmered like dew on lotus petals. In every season, he made sure she remained as lovely as the first day they met. She was the jewel of his heart, and he believed her love would last beyond the mountains of life and into the valley of death. The second wife was gentle and graceful. She kept to the inner rooms, arranging flowers, preparing incense, managing the household in quiet devotion. Each time she saw her husband pass by, her heart trembled like a delicate leaf in spring rain. But he seldom lingered in her presence. Their shared moments were like brief ripples on a still pond, felt deeply, but gone too soon. The third wife lived even further from his attention. She moved like a quiet shadow, drifting between her chamber and the moonlit garden. On rare nights, when the elder remembered her, he would visit, leaving behind faint echoes of closeness that faded with the morning mist. She learned to find comfort in silence, her spirit wrapped in a thin shawl of longing. The fourth wife was almost invisible, a silent figure bent over endless chores. From the first pale light to the hush of midnight, she worked without complaint, sweeping fallen petals from stone steps, lighting lamps in dark corridors, mending torn robes, and preparing simple meals. She was unseen, unpraised, yet her hands shaped the rhythms of the house. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the western hills and the stars began to glimmer, the elder fell ill. The finest doctors came, chanting mantras and brewing rare herbs. But the river of life had begun to retreat. Each breath grew thinner than the last. Sensing his final hour drawing near, he called for his first wife, the beloved star of his life. "Dearest," he whispered, voice like a fading wind, "you have walked beside me in every season. When I cross into the next world, will you come with me? Will you hold my hand beyond the threshold of this life?" She looked at him calmly, her eyes like a still pond untouched by rain. "Beloved," she said softly, "I cannot go with you. Our bond ends here, in this world." His heart trembled as if struck by a sudden frost. "All my love, my devotion, the treasures I offered you, will you not return them in this final moment?" She only bowed her head, silent and serene, and turned away. A heavy sadness wrapped around him like a winter cloak. He then called for his second wife. You, my quiet rose, will you follow me beyond the gates of death? With a gentle sigh, she said, I can only walk with you to the city gates. I will weep for you, burn incense for you, and remember your voice in the evening wind. But beyond that, I cannot travel. His spirit sank deeper, like a stone sinking beneath dark waves. Turning to the third wife, he pleaded once more, My distant companion, will you come with me? She placed her hands together in respect and said, I will follow you to the edge of the forest, to the pyre where your ashes rise. I will send prayers after you, but I cannot cross the final river beside you. Finally, with nothing left but a faint ember of hope, he called for the fourth wife, the one he had always overlooked. She knelt before him, her hands still scented with jasmine from the evening lamps. My lord, she said softly, from the day I came to serve you, I offered my life completely. I have no separate self, no other home, no other world. Wherever you go, I shall follow through mist and shadow, through moonlight and storm. Even when your breath stops, my presence will not leave you. The elder's eyes filled with tears that glimmered like falling stars. In that final moment, he saw the deepest truth. All he had cherished could not walk beside him into the unknown except for the quiet one, the one he had ignored. When this story reached the ears of the Buddha, he spoke in a voice gentle as moonlight. The first wife is our body. We nourish it, adorn it, love it dearly. Yet when death arrives, it cannot follow. It remains on the earth, becoming one with dust. The second wife represents our wealth and possessions. No matter how we cling to them, they can only escort us to the city gates of death. The third wife is our family and friends. They will hold our hands, cry beneath the moon, walk beside our coffin, but in the end, they must turn back, each returning to their own life. The fourth wife, the quiet servant, is our karma, the unseen companion woven from every thought, every word, every deed. It alone follows us beyond this life, holding our hand through countless worlds. Imagine now that you are drifting on a gentle stream. The moonlight softens your heart. You see the four wives standing on the shore, waving farewell. Only one walks into the mist, with you your karma, radiant and silent. Let each breath tonight be a small offering of kindness. Let each heartbeat carry a vow to live gently, to act with compassion, to walk with mindfulness so that your unseen companion is a pure, luminous friend rather than a heavy chain. As you feel your body resting deeper into the bed, your mind becoming like a calm lake, you may whisper quietly to yourself, I care for this body, but I do not cling to it. I enjoy my possessions, but they do not bind me. I cherish my loved ones, but I let them be free. I walk with my karma, shaping it with love and understanding. Story 2. Under the Triple Gate. Once upon a time, in the city of Sravasti, the streets woke up to a morning full of color and laughter. Horses trotted on stone roads, carts rattled by, and people dressed in bright silks flowed like a river through the markets. Shopkeepers called out their prices. Children chased each other through the alleys, and every corner sang with life. But as you wandered deeper into narrow lanes, you would find a different world, a quiet, heavy world where small huts leaned together like tired shoulders. Here lived those considered the lowest in society, the ones who carried the burdens others refused to see. In this quiet corner lived a young man named Nide. He carried buckets of waste on a bamboo yoke, moving quickly with eyes cast down. His heart often felt as heavy as his buckets. He thought to himself, "Why must I be born into this fate? Why must I carry this filth while others walk proudly beneath the same sun?" That morning, as he hurried along a small alley, he suddenly saw a gentle light. There, stepping softly on the dusty road, was the Buddha, glowing with a serene and warm radiance. Startled, Nide ducked into a side path, trembling. "I am too dirty," he thought. "I must not be seen by someone so pure." But the Buddha saw his heart and called out in a gentle voice, like a breeze whispering through lotus petals, "Dear one, why do you hide? I have come to see you." Nida set down his buckets, shaking, and bowed his head low. "Lord," he said in a thin voice, "I am unworthy. Please do not come close to me. I am filthy and lowly." The Buddha stepped closer and smiled softly, his eyes full of compassion. "Dear child," he said, "no one has the power to judge your worth. I did not come for the wealthy alone, nor just for the wise or powerful. I came for all beings, especially those who suffer." Tears began to fill Nide's eyes. He looked up, and in that moment, he felt warmth spread across his heart, like sunlight in cold stone. "Could it be true," he whispered, "that even someone like me can walk beside you, learn from you, and live in your teachings?" The Buddha nodded. "There is no difference in the color of tears, no difference in the warmth of blood. Every being carries the seed of awakening. Would you like to live a freer, brighter life? Would you like to walk close to me?" Tears streamed down Nide's face as he fell to his knees. "Yes," he sobbed, "this is a dream I never dared to dream." The Buddha gently took his hand and led him to a nearby river. There, Nide bathed and washed away not only dirt, but years of shame and sorrow. Dressed in fresh robes, he followed the Buddha to Jetavana Monastery. In the quiet days that followed, Nide practiced diligently. He learned to calm his mind, to breathe with the earth, to listen deeply to the silence of the moon. With each passing sunrise, his heart grew lighter, and his eyes shone with a new clarity. In time, he reached deep realization and became an arahant, an awakened one. Meanwhile, news of Nide's transformation reached King Pasenadi. The king could not believe it. How could a waste carrier become enlightened, he thought, his mind heavy with old prejudices. One day, King Pasenadi arrived at the monastery gate, planning to ask the Buddha to forbid such lowly people from joining the monastic order. As he approached, he saw a monk sitting quietly on a large stone, sewing his robe. The king asked the monk to announce his visit to the Buddha. Without a word, The monk stood, stepped forward, and passed right through the stone as if walking through mist. The king and his followers gasped in awe and fear. Moments later, the monk reappeared and softly said, "Your Majesty, the Blessed One awaits you." Inside, the king bowed deeply before the Buddha. "Lord," he asked with wonder, "who is that monk with such miraculous power?" The Buddha replied calmly, "That is Nide, the one you once called lowly. Now he is fully awakened, a true arahant, free of all attachments." The king stood silent, his mind trembling like a leaf in the wind. The Buddha spoke gently, "Great king, in muddy waters, the most beautiful lotus blooms. Should we not honor the pure heart that rises above all dirt and sorrow?" The king lowered his head, tears welling up. "Yes, Lord," he whispered, "the light of wisdom shines beyond all status and birth. I was blind, but now I see." From that day forward, King Pasenadi honored Nide deeply and invited him to share teachings in the royal palace. The city learned that true nobility is not born from birth, but from the gentle blooming of the heart. And under the triple gate of Jetavana Monastery, a new light of kindness shone, showing that no one is too low to awaken, and no soul is ever truly forgotten. Story 3. Returning to the Buddha's Realms. Once upon a time, in a rich and dazzling household, there lived a young woman named Patakara. She grew up surrounded by silk curtains and soft cushions, her beauty shining like a full moon. Many noblemen longed for her hand, but her heart had already been given away to a young servant in her family home. Their love was secret and tender, a delicate flame hidden from the world. In each other's arms, they whispered dreams of running away, of a life where they could simply love and be free. One quiet evening, as the stars blinked awake in the sky, they seized their chance. Disguised and trembling with hope, they left behind the golden halls and stepped into the unknown, hand in hand. Soon, Patakara discovered she was carrying a child. Near her time of giving birth, she felt fear gnawing at her heart. Who would help her? Who would hold her trembling hand? She begged her husband to bring her back to her parents' home for the birth, but he was too afraid. His voice was soft, yet firm, telling her he could not face her family. One day, while he was away, Patakara, heavy with her first child, slipped out alone. Her feet were weak, but her heart was stronger than any storm. When her husband returned, he found only silence, no warm smile, no gentle hands. He ran after her, calling into the wilderness, and finally found her alone on a lonely path. Their reunion was bittersweet, filled with tears and forgiveness. Together they braved the forest, and Patakara gave birth under the cold, watchful stars. Time passed, and she was pregnant again. As the next birth approached, she once more set off alone, seeking her parents' comfort. But this journey turned into a river of sorrow. Lost among the trees, thunder growled above her, rain fell in heavy sheets, and the forest echoed with cries of night creatures. She struggled through mud and shadows, her body shivering with pain. Under the dark canopy, she gave birth once more, while her first child clung to her, wet and trembling. When her husband finally found her, he was shocked to see her huddled with two children in the storm. He promised to find dry wood to build a fire, but fate was cruel. A snake struck him down as he searched. Patakara waited and waited. Something deep inside her whispered the truth. With unsteady steps, she followed his path and found him lying still, his body darkened by venom. Her heart cracked open. Her cries rose into the wild sky, and the forest seemed to mourn with her. She gathered her children and continued toward her childhood home, carrying her grief like a heavy cloak. On the way, she reached a fierce river. She carried the newborn across first, leaving him under its tree, and returned for her elder son. But while she struggled through the current, an eagle swooped down and snatched the newborn away into the gray sky. Helpless, she screamed and waved, but the bird vanished beyond the clouds. Hearing her cries, her older son thought she was calling him to come forward. He ran into the water and was swept away by the merciless current. Patakara collapsed on the riverbank, her mind shattering like broken glass. She had lost her husband, her two precious sons. Her wails rose and fell like ocean waves, echoing into the silent dawn. In her daze, she wandered forward, hoping to find her parents, but as she neared her home, she saw smoke rising. Her family home had collapsed in a storm. Her parents were gone too. At this moment, her mind fully broke. She tore her clothes and stumbled aimlessly through villages, laughing and crying, her hair wild, her words tangled and strange. Children ran behind her, laughing and teasing, unaware of the endless grief that churned within her. One day, she stumbled into a monastery where the Buddha was teaching. The children jeered and shouted, but the Buddha lifted his hand gently, calming the sea of noise. "Let her come," he said, his voice deep and soft, like the earth after rain. Patakara, trembling, came forward. A gentle light spread from the Buddha, wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Suddenly, clarity returned to her eyes. She fell to her knees, hastily covering herself with a robe offered by kind hands. The Buddha looked upon her with kindness that reached deep into her heart. "My child," he said, "the tears you have shed through countless lifetimes are more than all the water in the oceans. You have clung to the belief that these loved ones were truly yours, but nothing in this world belongs to us forever, not even our own bodies." Patikara's sobs softened. Each word from the Buddha was like a gentle breeze, sweeping away dark clouds. "Take refuge in yourself," the Buddha continued. "See clearly and let your heart awaken. You can return to the shore beyond sorrow, to the quiet realm of peace." With each breath, her pain transformed into understanding. She bowed deeply and asked to become a nun. In time, with practice and devotion, Patakara reached liberation. She rose beyond grief, beyond the endless waves of loss, into a sky of clear, endless light. Story 4. The Natural Way of Arising and Passing. Once, long ago, in the kingdom of Bala, there lived a gentle farmer, a kind Brahmin. In a simple house surrounded by fields, and open sky. He lived with his beloved wife. Their life was not wealthy in gold, but they were rich in gentle smiles and daily care for each other. Together, they tended the fields, planting seeds in the early morning mist and returning home in the golden glow of sunset. Soon, they were blessed with 2 children, a son and a daughter. As the years passed, they married their son to a lovely, quiet woman, and the family grew into a warm circle of love. Every day, the father and son worked side by side in the fields. When noon came, a kind servant girl would bring them food, and they would share a moment of rest beneath the wide, open sky. The Brahmin father often reminded his family, all things that arise must also pass away. Remember this truth and keep it close to your heart. One day, as the father guided the plow and the son burned dry grass nearby, a silent danger hid beneath the earth. The burning heat disturbed a snake in its hidden nest. Angered and afraid, it struck the young man on the leg. The father, focused on his work, did not see. But as time stretched on and his son did not return, he turned and found his beloved boy lying still on the ground. His skin had turned pale. His life had slipped away like a soft breeze vanishing at dawn. Most fathers would fall to the ground in wailing grief, but this Brahmin, wise and gentle, knelt by his son's side. With careful hands, he checked if there was any breath left. Seeing there was none, he lifted his son's body and carried it to the shade of a great tree. There, he laid him down gently, as if laying a child to sleep. Then, with steady steps, he returned to his plow and continued his work. A neighbor passing by noticed and was asked to tell the family, "Today, bring only 1 lunch portion to the field, and come together. There is something you need to know." At home, hearing this, the family understood the son was gone, but no one cried out. Even the young wife did not wail or tear at her clothes. They accepted this news in deep, quiet understanding. At noon, they came to the field. They saw the son's body resting under the tree. Together, they placed gentle garlands of wildflowers over him. Then, with calm hands, they built a small pyre of dry branches. The fire rose slowly, its smoke curling into the afternoon sky. They watched as the form of their beloved son turned to ashes. Their hearts ached, but they did not scream or cry aloud. Instead, they turned their pain into a soft acceptance, like a leaf floating quietly down a stream. They knew all that is born must pass. Clinging only deepens sorrow. When the fire had faded and only white ash remained, the family turned to leave. The sun was low on the horizon, painting the fields in gentle gold. In their hearts, there was sadness, but also a new light of understanding. High above, the king of the gods, Chakra, watched with wonder. Curious, he descended in the form of an old man and asked, "Why do you not cry? Was this son not dear to you?" The Brahmin father replied softly, "When a snake sheds its old skin, do we mourn the old skin? No, we accept the flow of change." The mother added, "He came to us without asking, and now he leaves without farewell. The fire does not feel heat. Our cries cannot bring him back. The daughter said, crying only makes us weak and sick. Life is already heavy enough without adding more pain. The young wife spoke with steady voice. A child may ask for the moon, but no parent can give it. My tears cannot bring him back from the other side. Even the humble servant girl shared her wisdom. A clay pot once broken cannot be mended. Tears are as useless as trying to repair that pot. The old god, deeply moved, saw their serene hearts and bowed in respect. Tonight, as you rest under your own sky, think of this family. Let their calm remind you that everything, even sorrow, rises and falls like waves on the sea. Story 5. The Sage of the Snowy Forest. Long ago, in the deep, cold silence of the snowy forest, there lived a sage named Lomasapasapa. He was calm and radiant, his heart bright like the early morning star. This sage was none other than a past life of the Buddha himself, practicing alone beneath the snow-laden pines. His meditation was so deep and powerful that even the king of the gods, Chakra, we know him as Indra, could feel the warmth of his spiritual fire reaching all the way to the heavens. Curious and slightly unsettled, Chakra wondered, where does this heat come from? What kind of heart burns with such pure, steady flame? Looking down from his heavenly seat, Chakra saw the sage and devised a test, a subtle temptation to measure the sage's resolve. That night, he appeared in the dream of a powerful king, his figure glowing softly like moonlight in a dark room. "O great king," Chakra whispered, "if you wish to rule over all the human world without sickness or death, you must send your daughter, the Princess Candadevi, to tempt the sage in the snowy forest. Have your royal priest help her. If you succeed, your kingdom will be unmatched." At dawn, the king awoke and immediately believed the dream. He ordered his priest and the lovely Princess Candadevi to journey to the snowy forest, to bring the sage back and have him perform a grand fire sacrifice. In the quiet of the forest, the princess approached the sage with gentle smiles and soft words, her beauty like a blooming lotus in moonlight. The sage, not guarding his mind, let his senses wander. Like a still pond disturbed by a single pebble, his clear mind trembled. Slowly, he was convinced to return to the palace, blinded by the warmth of worldly desire. The grand fire ritual was prepared, calling for countless animals, elephants, oxen, horses, and even young children, all to be sacrificed in flames. The people gathered, horrified. Their cries rose like storm winds. "O holy sage, how could you, who once glowed with pure practice, now raise your hand to harm so many innocent lives?" An elder in the crowd cried out, "The moon lights the dark sky, the sun warms the earth, the ocean holds countless waves, yet the power of a woman's charm surpasses them all. See how even a noble sage can fall." At that moment, the sage lifted his blade toward a trembling elephant. The elephant's desperate cry echoed like thunder through the air, joined by the terrified calls of every creature waiting to die. A deep wave of compassion broke over the sage. His heart, which had been clouded, suddenly cleared like a morning sky after rain. He saw the fear, felt the sorrow, and understood the depth of his error. "What am I doing?" he whispered to himself. "How could I trade so many lives for a fleeting pleasure? How could I allow my mind to sink into such darkness? This is not the path of a true practitioner." He dropped the sword. With a steady breath, he began to recall his meditation, his original vows echoing quietly inside. His mind grew bright again, and he rose into the air, glowing softly above the shocked crowd. In that serene moment, he spoke to the king and the people below. "End these cruel sacrifices. Release these beings. True peace comes not from blood or fire, but from kindness and understanding." The king, seeing this miracle and feeling the weight of wisdom in the sage's voice, stopped the ritual at once. All the animals and the children were freed, and the cruel practice of fiery sacrifice was forever abandoned. High above, the sage slowly drifted away, disappearing into the quiet sky, like a single star fading at dawn. Story 6. The Crimson Cloak. Long ago, in the peaceful gardens of Jetavana Monastery, in the city of Savatthi, the Buddha often shared his teachings under the cool shade of ancient trees. In that same city lived a poor Brahmin named Kulakasataka. His name meant the one with only a single cloth. He and his wife were so poor that they owned only one cloak, taking turns wearing it whenever they needed to go out. One day, they heard that the Buddha was giving a discourse. Sitting together, they softly discussed who should go when. The wife said gently, "Dear husband, I will go listen during the day. You are a man, so you can attend at night." So it was decided. By day, the wife went to hear the Dharma, her heart growing lighter with each word. At night, the Brahmin took the cloak and walked to the monastery, his heart full of longing for peace. One night, as he listened to the Buddha's words, a radiant joy bloomed in his heart. 5 pure joys arose, like lotuses opening in the moonlight. Overcome by gratitude, he longed to offer his only cloak to the Buddha. Yet, a fearful thought crept in. "If I offer this cloak, what will my wife and I wear? We have nothing else." A quiet battle began within him. The pure intention glowed faintly, but the heavy shadows of clinging and fear pulled at him. Through the first watch of the night, he hesitated. Through the second watch, he still could not decide. Finally, in the last watch before dawn, a bright courage rose in him, like the first morning light. He spoke firmly in his heart. "If I don't conquer this stinginess now, I will remain trapped in suffering. Tonight, I will defeat it." With a deep breath and steady hands, he took off the single cloak and laid it gently at the Buddha's feet. Overcome with emotion, he cried out, "I have won, I have won." King Pasenadi, who was listening nearby, heard the sudden cry. Alarmed, he sent his attendants to ask what this victory meant. The Brahmin explained how he had conquered his own greed and offered his only garment to the Buddha. Hearing this, the king was deeply moved. Such a victory is rare, he thought. Few can win such a battle within themselves. In admiration, the king gifted the Brahmin 2 new cloaks. Without hesitation, the Brahmin offered both to the Buddha. The king gave 4 more cloaks. Again, the Brahmin offered them all. Then 8 he gave them again. Then 16 all offered. then 32 again, offered with joy. Finally, the king bestowed 64 cloaks. This time, the Brahmin kept 2 for himself and 2 for his wife. The remaining 60 he offered to the Buddha, his eyes shining with quiet happiness. Seeing this pure and boundless generosity, the king gave him even greater gifts: 4,000 coins, 4 elephants, 4 horses, 4 male attendants, 4 female attendants, and even 4 villages to collect taxes. That night, as the Brahmin returned home under the starlit sky, he felt no burden, only a lightness in his heart, like a bird soaring at dawn. Later, the monks gathered and marveled at the Brahmin's unwavering spirit. The Buddha, listening with a gentle smile, shared a soft teaching. Dear monks, had he offered his cloak in the first watch of the night, he would have received even greater blessings. In the second watch, a little less. In the third watch, still less. Thus, one should act on pure intentions immediately. Delay weakens the strength of virtue. Finally, the Buddha recited a verse that lingered softly in the night air. When you intend to do good, do it without delay. If you linger and hesitate, your heart may turn away. And so, in the quiet halls of Jetavana, beneath the moon and the whispering trees, the Brahmin's simple cloak became a timeless lesson in courage, generosity, and the gentle power of an unclouded heart. Story 7. 9 Golden Similes of Sariputta. Once, under the soft glow of moonlight at Jetavana Monastery, a hush fell across the gardens. Fireflies drifted among the flowers, and the night air carried a gentle fragrance. It was a time when the monks gathered to listen to stories and teachings, their hearts quiet and open, like still ponds under the stars. In this peaceful setting lived the great disciple Sariputta, known far and wide for his deep wisdom and kindness. His presence was as steady as an ancient tree, offering shelter and shade to all who came near. One evening, Sariputta prepared to enter the forest for a time of silent meditation. Before leaving, he came to bid farewell to the Buddha, and many monks gathered around him. Among them stood a young monk who felt unnoticed and overlooked in the crowd. Sariputta did not greet me, the young monk thought sadly. Perhaps he thinks I am unworthy. A seed of resentment sprouted in his heart. Seizing a chance, as Sariputta passed by and his robe brushed lightly against him, the young monk rushed to the Buddha in agitation. "Stop, Lord," he cried. "Sariputta struck me as he left. He is proud and careless." The Buddha listened calmly and asked for Sariputta to return. When Sariputta arrived, he bowed deeply and sat quietly before the Buddha, like a calm lake reflecting the moon. The Buddha asked softly, "Sariputta, why did you strike this young monk?" With gentle eyes and a voice as soft as morning mist, Sariputta replied, "Lord, I do not hold anger or pride. I see myself like the earth. People pour sweet perfumes or cast waste upon it, yet the earth remains unmoved. I see myself like water, used to bathe precious statues or wash away filth. Water stays pure and calm. I see myself like fire, whether burning fragrant incense or foul refuse. fire remains impartial and untroubled. I see myself like the wind. It moves over flower gardens and garbage heaps alike, carrying no sorrow or joy. I see myself like an outcast, accepting all insults and hardships without complaint. I see myself like a hornless ox, gentle and avoiding harm to all beings. I see myself like a snake, shedding its heavy skin, longing only to release the burdens of the body. I see myself like a vessel of thick ghee, difficult to cleanse, teaching me to be humble and careful. I see myself like a fragile jar, knowing that this body is temporary and not worth defending. Lord, with this heart, I would never seek to harm or quarrel. As his words drifted through the moonlit garden, the earth itself seemed to hum with quiet respect. Tears welled up in the monk's eyes, moved by his deep humility and unwavering patience. The young monk, overwhelmed with shame and sorrow, fell at Sariputta's feet. "Forgive me, venerable one. I have wronged you with my words and my heart." Sariputta, with a tender smile, bowed low and replied, "I forgive you completely, and if ever I have harmed you, knowingly or unknowingly, please forgive me too." The Buddha, shining like a lantern in the dark, spoke gently. A heart filled with patience and compassion can dissolve even the deepest hatred. Such a heart becomes a guiding light for all beings. That night, under a blanket of stars and soft chants, the gentle similes of Sariputta settled into the hearts of the listeners like falling petals, a lesson in humility, patience, and the quiet strength of kindness. Story 8: The Throne and the Sage. Long ago, in the ancient city of Varanasi, there lived a wise sage named Kunda. In a past life, he would later become the Buddha himself. Kunda had renounced all worldly ties and dwelled alone in the snowy forest, where he cultivated patience and deep meditation for many years. One day, he decided to visit Varanasi and rest for a while in the royal pleasure garden, a place filled with flowering trees and singing birds. At that time, King Kalapu ruled Varanasi. One afternoon, after drinking heavily, the king wandered into the pleasure garden with his many queens. Overcome by the warmth and wine, he fell into a deep sleep beneath the trees. When he awoke, he found himself alone. All the queens had wandered off and were now gathered around the serene sage Kunda, listening to his gentle words of Dharma. The king's heart, clouded by pride and drink, burned with jealousy. In a rage, he stormed toward the sage, sword in hand. One beloved queen tried to stop him, tugging at his arm, but he pushed her aside and continued. Standing before the sage, the king demanded, "You ascetic, what is it you teach people?" Kunda replied calmly, his voice like cool water on a hot day. "Great king, I teach patience, the noble art of not giving rise to anger even when insulted or harmed." The king sneered. "Patience, we shall see how patient you truly are." In his fury, he ordered his guards, "Hold him down and strike him with 3,000 lashes." The guards obeyed, each blow echoing in the silent grove. Through it all, Kunda did not utter a single cry. When the beating stopped, the king jeered again. "What do you teach now?" "Ascetic." The sage, bloodied but unbroken, answered softly, "I still teach patience, Your Majesty. Do you think patience lives only in my skin? No, it lives deep within my heart." Enraged beyond reason, the king roared, cut off his hands and feet. When this cruelty was done, the king asked again, "Now, what do you teach?" The sage replied, "See, still patience. O king, do you think patience rests in my limbs? It is rooted in the spirit, untouched by blades." The king, unable to bear such unwavering calm, ordered, "Slice off his ears, his nose, pluck out his eyes." The guards carried out these dreadful commands. Still, when asked again, the sage responded in the same soft voice, "I teach patience." Finally, the king, wild with rage, stomped on the sage's chest and left him for dead. But the earth itself could not bear such cruelty. It split open, swallowing the king whole, casting him straight into the deepest hell, known as Avachi, the realm of endless torment. As the earth fell silent, a loyal minister approached the sage, gently wiping the blood from his broken body. The minister wept and whispered, "O gentle sage, please do not blame us. It was the king alone who wronged you." Kunda looked up, his breath thin but his heart pure, and replied, "I hold no anger toward anyone. May the king live long and find happiness in future lives. For one who cultivates true patience holds no ill or hatred in their heart." That day, beneath the quiet trees, the fragrance of the sage's compassion spread far and wide, a perfume sweeter than any royal garden. As the moon rose, casting silver light upon the torn leaves, the story of the sage's boundless patience became a timeless lesson. We too can remember him when our hearts feel heavy with anger or hurt. In those moments, we can whisper to ourselves, "Patience is my shield, kindness is my sword." And like the sage in the story, we learn that true strength is not in conquering others, but in gently conquering ourselves. Story 9. The Merchant of Patience. Once upon a time, beneath the soft glow of a morning sky, there lived a wealthy and respected merchant named Puna. His home was in the distant land of Sunaparanta, a place known for wild markets and loud, restless hearts. Puna's life was filled with trade, gold coins, fragrant spices, and shining silks, yet deep inside, a quiet question always shimmered like a hidden pearl. One day, his travels led him to the magnificent city of Sravasti. There, he heard that the Buddha was teaching in the cool serenity of Jetavana Monastery. Curiosity and a gentle longing guided his steps through the monastery gates, where he sat among monks and lay people under the shade of tall trees. As the Buddha spoke, Puna felt something awaken within him. His restless heart softened. Joy rose like a gentle sunrise, lighting every hidden corner of his being. In that moment, the countless treasures and comforts he owned seemed like fragile dewdrops on grass. Unable to contain this awakening, he approached the Buddha, bowed deeply, and said, "Blessed One, I wish to leave behind all my worldly life. Please, let me follow your path. The Buddha gazed at Puna with warm, quiet eyes. In that gaze, there was understanding deeper than the ocean and as still as the moon. Puna returned home and called his trusted steward. With a peaceful voice, he said, "Take all my riches, every gold coin, every precious cloth, and return them to my brother, Chulana. My heart belongs elsewhere now." Thus, Puna shaved his head, donned the simple robes of a monk, and began a new journey. For a while, he stayed in Stravasti, practicing meditation diligently, but as time passed, he felt the land was not quite right for him. Perhaps the air, the sounds, or simply his own deep roots in Sunaparanta called him back. With quiet resolve, he approached the Buddha and bowed. "Blessed One, I wish to return to my homeland of Sunaparanta to continue my practice and to share the Dharma." The Buddha looked at him gently and said, "Puna, the people of Sunaparanta are known to be rough and quick to anger. What will you do if they scold and threaten you?" Puna smiled softly, as if hearing a kind friend's question, and replied, "Blessed One, if they scold me, I will think, how gentle they are not to strike me with their hands." The Buddha's eyes glimmered with a knowing light. "And if they strike you with their hands," Puna bowed his head, "then I will think, they are so kind not to throw stones at me. And if they throw stones at you, with a serene heart," Puna answered, "I will think, they are so kind not to strike me with sticks. And if they strike you with sticks," his voice calm as moonlit water, Puna said, "then I will think, how kind they are not to stab me with swords or cut me with knives. And if they stab you with swords or cut you with knives, a gentle breath, a peaceful smile, then I will think, they are so kind not to take my life completely." The Buddha leaned forward slightly, his voice low and soft. "And if they take your life, dear Puna," Puna's eyes shone like stars at dawn, "then I will think, what a blessing I have long wished to leave this fragile body, this source of suffering. They have given me the gift of freedom." Hearing these words, the Buddha smiled widely, a smile that seemed to embrace the whole world. Well done, Puna. With such patience, such unshakable loving kindness, you are ready to return. You will be safe. You will teach many." So Puna set out, robes rustling softly like a gentle breeze, staff in hand, eyes bright with a quiet joy. When he arrived in Sunaparanta, he walked calmly among the people. They shouted at him, some hurled insults, and some even raised their hands, but in his eyes, they were kind teachers, helping him deepen his patience. As days turned into weeks, the harsh words softened. The hands that once struck now offered food and water. The hearts that were closed as stone slowly opened like lotus flowers under morning sun. Through his boundless patience, Puna inspired hundreds to listen to the Dharma. Many who had once roared with anger now sat quietly, their faces lit with gentle understanding. In time, Puna's heart blossomed into full enlightenment. He became an arahant, free from all defilements and illusions. As you drift asleep tonight, imagine Puna's gentle footsteps on the dusty roads, the kindness in his eyes, even when faced with scorn, the serene smile on his lips under the moon. Patience is the softest armor, and love is the strongest force. May we all find the courage to walk with such kindness in every storm. Story 10: The Endless Debt. Long, long ago, in a peaceful village surrounded by rice fields, there lived a young man named Spring. His heart was as gentle as a soft spring breeze. He loved his parents deeply and devoted his entire youth to caring for them, never considering marriage while his father was still alive. When his father passed away, Spring devoted himself even more to his mother, vowing never to marry so he could serve her fully. But a mother's heart always worries. She feared there would be no incense offerings after her death and no one to continue the family line. It stood quietly. She arranged a marriage for Spring, choosing a kind and gentle young woman named Grace. At first, Spring resisted. His love for his mother was so strong that he had never imagined taking a wife. But seeing her hopeful eyes, he finally agreed, honoring her wish above all. Grace turned out to be a bright light in the family. She was beautiful, patient, and deeply devoted to her mother-in-law, caring for her like her own mother. The villagers praised her endlessly, and Spring's mother felt comforted. Yet, there was one hidden sorrow: she could not bear a child. Night after night, Grace lay awake, her hands over her heart, imagining herself as a lonely blossom on a high cliff, admired but without fruit. Out of love for the family, she made a painful decision. She arranged for Spring to take a second wife, a young woman named Hope. When Hope arrived, the household remained harmonious. Grace treated her with kindness, guiding her in all the chores and showing her warmth. But as time passed, a cold shadow crept into Grace's heart. One day, Hope became pregnant. The house overflowed with joy, but Grace felt her heart fill with a quiet darkness. She began to see Hope as a threat, a living proof of her own inability to continue the family line. Day by day, the seeds of envy bloomed into deep resentment. Behind her gentle smile, Grace hid her true feelings. She prepared meals, folded clothes, and shared moonlit conversations. Hope trusted her completely. Then, one evening, Grace quietly mixed a bitter powder into Hope's meal, a secret potion to end the pregnancy. Soon after, Hope felt sharp pain, and her hope was lost. The family mourned, while Grace comforted them with soft words, secretly satisfied. But before long, Hope conceived again, and again, Grace repeated her plan, feeding her poison until another life was lost. A third pregnancy followed. This time, guided by a quiet fear, Hope kept her secret carefully. Yet Grace discovered it and prepared her final, strongest poison. Though the baby was stronger and survived longer, in the end both mother and child perished. As Hope lay dying, she felt a wave of betrayal and pain. In her last breath, she vowed vengeance across lifetimes. Thus began a long chain of revenge. In the next life, Grace became a hen and Hope became a cat. Each time the hen laid eggs, the cat came and devoured the chicks, finally killing the hen herself. In the next life, the hen became a leopardess, and the cat became a gentle doe. Each time the doe bore a fawn, the leopardess hunted and killed it, then finally took the mother's life too. In another life, the doe became a female spirit, and the leopardess was reborn as a beautiful girl in a wealthy family. When the girl married and bore children, the spirit disguised itself as a friend, visiting each time to celebrate, only to steal the newborn away. After the second child was taken, the young mother nearly lost her mind. During her third pregnancy, her husband decided to bring her back to her parents' home to stay safe. The spirit, then serving King Vesavana, heard of this and took to the skies, determined to find her old rival. On their way home, the couple stopped at a serene pond near Jetavana Monastery. As the young mother held her baby, a stormy wind rose. Looking up, she saw the spirit descending like a dark cloud. Terrified, she ran to Jetavana, placed her baby at the Buddha's feet, and cried, "Please, please save my child." The Buddha looked upon her with deep compassion and said gently, "This endless cycle of revenge and suffering began long ago with hatred and ignorance. Only love and compassion can end it." The Buddha revealed to both the many lifetimes of pain they had shared. The spirit's rage melted into tears, and both souls, overwhelmed by the Buddha's words, let go of their ancient hatred. From that moment, their heavy hearts were freed, like birds soaring at dawn. As you drift to sleep tonight, may this story remind you even the deepest wounds can heal when touched by compassion, and beyond every storm of anger, there is always a gentle dawn waiting to rise. Story 11. Catching the Moon Rabbit. Long ago, on a night when the stars glimmered like lanterns on a dark lake, there was a peaceful kingdom ruled by a gentle and wise king named Peaceful Heart. This king loved his son more than all the jewels in his treasure room, more than the moon that lit his garden ponds. The young prince was his joy, his laughter, his future. But one day, the prince grew ill and slipped away like a breeze in the night. The king was overcome with sorrow. His tears fell day and night, soaking the silk cushions of his palace. He refused food and turned away from music and flowers. The palace that once echoed with laughter now stood silent and heavy, as though even the walls grieved with him. Among the king's 9 brothers, there was one named Gennady, a gentle soul with eyes as clear as morning dew. While the king sat hidden inside the palace, Gennady chose to walk outside, letting his tears fall beneath the open sky. People in the city watched him curiously. Children paused in their games. Old women stopped weaving at their doorsteps. Finally, someone gathered the courage to ask, "Dear Prince, why do you wander these streets, crying so deeply? What has broken your heart so?" Gennady looked up at the moon above, its pale glow gentle like a mother's hand on a sleeping child's forehead. "I am crying because I wish to catch the moon rabbit," he said softly, his voice trembling like a soft string of a harp touched by wind. The townspeople were astonished. They hurried to the palace and told the king, "Your brother is outside, weeping for a rabbit that lives on the moon. We fear he has lost his mind from grief." Hearing this, the king felt a new pain rise in his heart, not for himself, but for his dear brother. He wrapped himself in a cloak and went out into the moonlit streets. When he found Gennady, he held his hands tightly, as if afraid the gentle soul might drift away like smoke. "My beloved brother," the king said, voice cracking with emotion, "do you wish for a rabbit made of gold, of silver, of the finest pearls? Tell me, and I will command the artisans to craft it. If you want a living rabbit from the forest, I will send the hunters at once. Just please, do not grieve so." Gennady shook his head, his hair shimmering under moonlight. "No, brother, I do not wish for a rabbit of this world. My heart longs only for the rabbit on the moon, the one we see each night sitting quietly, a silent companion to all who are lonely." The king fell silent, his tears shimmering in the moonlight. "My brother," he whispered, "longing for the moon rabbit is a sorrow that can never be eased. You will grow thin with grief and may even die from this wish. Why burden your gentle heart so?" Gennady squeezed his brother's hands gently. "Dearest brother, you see me yearning for the moon rabbit and worry that I will waste away. But you yourself are weeping for our beloved prince, who, like the moon rabbit, can never return to us. Death is a journey no one can escape, not kings, not beggars, not even the wisest sages. All living beings must one day put aside this cloak of flesh and walk into the silent woods of the next life. When we cling to what has already slipped beyond the river of time, we only hurt ourselves deeper. Instead, let us turn our love toward the living, helping them blossom, teaching them kindness and courage. This is the true way to honor those we have lost." As Gennady spoke, the king felt as if a warm breeze had drifted through his heart, carrying away the thick fog of his grief. His tears dried slowly, like morning dew under the first rays of sunlight. He looked at Gennady with new eyes, filled with gratitude and relief. That night, for the first time since his son's passing, the king shared a meal, listened to the soft sound of wind in the gardens, and watched the moon rise without collapsing into sorrow. From that day onward, the king transformed his love for his son into acts of kindness for his people. He built schools, planted gardens where children could play, and helped the poor and lonely find warmth and shelter. And so, dear dreamer, as you lie under your blankets tonight, may you remember to love is to let go gently, to turn our grief into gentle deeds that light the path for others. Look up at the moon perhaps tonight. If you listen carefully, you might hear the soft whisper of the moon rabbit, reminding you that kindness is the truest offering to those who have gone before us. Rest now. Let your heart soften like the evening sky. Sleep in peace under the quiet gaze of moonlight. Story 12. When Kayla's Heart Awakened. Long ago, in the bustling city of Savathi, there lived a kind and generous man named Anathapindika. People called him the giver to the helpless because his heart was as wide as the sky, and his hands were always open to those in need. Anathapindika had a beloved son named Kola, whose name meant bright or radiant. But strangely, Kayla's mind was closed like a heavy door. He didn't believe in the Buddhist teachings. Instead, he was drawn to other views and clung to them stubbornly, like a vine twisting tightly around a tree trunk. Anathapindika loved his son deeply. He wished more than anything that Kala would open his heart to the gentle truths of the Dharma. Day after day, he tried to guide his son with soft words and patient love, but Kala remained unmoved, like a stone in a quiet river. One day, Anathapindika called Kala to his side. He spoke with a warm, earnest voice. "My son, if you go and keep the 8 precepts at the monastery tomorrow, I will give you 100 pieces of gold." Kala's eyes lit up, not with devotion, but with the glint of coins. He agreed quickly, not for love of the Dharma, but for love of the reward. The next day, he went to the monastery, followed the precepts for a short time, then hurried home to claim his gold, feeling quite pleased with himself. Some days later, Anathapindika tried again. This time, he made a greater offer, hoping to plant a seed deeper in his son's heart. "My dear Kala," he said gently, "if you go and listen to the Blessed One's teachings and come back remembering even a single verse, I will give you 1,000 pieces of gold." Kala's face brightened again. He thought, "Just one verse. That's easy. I'll repeat it a few times, get my gold, and be done with this." So he went to the monastery, entered the assembly hall, and listened. He repeated the verse in his mind again and again, each word carefully guarded, but when he reached home, the verse had vanished from his mind like dew under the morning sun. He felt a strange frustration, like someone grasping at a dream upon waking. Determined and slightly annoyed, Kala returned the next day. This time, he listened even more intently. That day, the Buddha spoke of impermanence of the truth, that all who are born must one day pass away. He spoke of how no one, not kings nor beggars, can escape death. His words were clear, like a bell echoing in a still night. Something unexpected stirred inside Kala's heart. His mind, once shut so tightly, felt a small crack, as if light had slipped through. Fear and wonder rose together. For the first time, Kala truly saw the fleeting nature of life, and in that moment, he felt something deeper than any gold could buy. He returned home, but instead of hurrying to claim his reward, he shut himself quietly in his room. He did not sleep nor eat, but sat in stillness, reflecting deeply. The next morning, the Buddha and many monks came to Anathapindika's home for alms. The father, filled with joy and hope, called out to Kala, "My son, come receive the 1,000 pieces of gold as I promised you." But Kala did not come out. He felt a soft shame washing over him, a sweet humility he had never known before. He no longer cared for the promise of gold. His mind was busy tasting a new, gentle joy, the joy of understanding, the peace that came from the truth. The Buddha, seeing Kala's struggle and tender new awakening, called him gently. "Kala," the Buddha said, his voice like a calm river. "No treasure in all 3 realms can compare to the joy of one who has entered the stream of awakening. When a heart touches the path, it rises above gold and gems, for these cannot lead you across the ocean of suffering. But understanding, even one true glimpse, is a raft that carries you beyond the shores of sorrow. Hearing this, Kala felt his heart open fully, like a lotus blossoming at sunrise. The desire for gold melted away, leaving only a quiet, shining gratitude. That day, Anathapindika wept not from sadness, but from deep, tender joy. His son had finally stepped into the gentle light of the Dharma. And so, dear dreamer, as you lie under the soft blanket of night, remember no gold, no jewel, no promise of the world can match the peaceful brightness that lives in a heart touched by truth. Sleep softly tonight, with your heart light as a moonbeam, and may gentle truths whisper to you in your dreams. Story 13. Water that turns to fire in the throat. 30 forest monks were practicing ascetic discipline, wandering each morning from the deep woods to the nearby villages for alms. One morning, as they crossed the banks of the great Ganges River, they saw a starving spirit, a preta, standing weakly at the water's edge. The monks asked, "What are you doing here?" The preta replied, "I'm searching for water to drink." The monks, surprised, pointed to the wide flowing river and said, "The river is full. Why don't you drink from it?" With hollow eyes and a trembling voice, the preta answered, "Venerable ones, whenever I approach the water, it turns into blazing fire before it can touch my lips." The monks felt deep compassion. They asked him to lie down. They began pouring water into his mouth with their alms bowls from dawn until the sun reached high in the sky. Finally, they asked, "Are you no longer thirsty?" Shaking his head in sorrow, the preta whispered, "Not a single drop has reached my throat. If even a drop had entered and I lied, may I remain in the deepest hell forever." The monks stood in silence, pouring water into a mouth that could not receive it. How much more futile were offerings and rituals if they lacked the right understanding, how terrifying and heavy the consequences of past actions could be. Later that day, as the Buddha was teaching the lay community, the monks came forward and shared the morning's encounter. The Buddha gently explained, "It is only through dedicated transfer of merit, sharing one's good deeds with sincerity, that those in other realms may truly receive support." Following his instructions, the monks boiled fresh water while the lay people prepared milk, sugar, and other offerings. The monks then chanted, offered the nourishment to the assembly, and mindfully dedicated the merit to the preta. That night, as the monks walked in meditation under the stars, a radiant deva appeared before them, his light like moonlight on a clear lake. He bowed deeply and said, "The starving spirit you met this morning has been reborn in a heavenly realm, freed by your compassionate dedication. From this, the Buddha taught, be swift in your acts of generosity. Do not wait for special anniversaries or auspicious dates. Someone in another realm might be waiting, suffering, longing for your compassionate offering. When the heart is moved to give, act without delay." Story 14. Respecting all life. Kakana was a young man whose heart was as soft as moonlight on a quiet pond. He did not yet know the teachings of the Buddha, but deep inside, he cherished a gentle love for all living beings. One morning, a hush fell over his home. His dear mother had fallen very ill, and her breathing became slow and heavy, like the last notes of a fading song. The family doctor, with a solemn face, whispered, "Only fresh rabbit's blood can heal her." Hearing this, Kakana's elder brother asked him to go into the forest and find a rabbit. With careful steps, Kakana walked into the forest, the cool morning air brushing his face like a mother's gentle hand. In the soft rustling of leaves and distant bird calls, he soon saw a rabbit darting through the undergrowth, its tiny body trembling with fear. He chased after it, his heart beating fast, and finally, the rabbit became stuck in a thick bush. As he reached down and lifted it, he felt the rabbit's rapid heartbeat against his palm, its tiny chest rising and falling like a frightened bird. Looking into its eyes, Kakana felt a tender sorrow wash over him. He thought to himself, "This little life trembles in my hands, just as my own mother's breath trembles in her bed. How could I end one precious life to save another? All beings love life. All beings fear death." He slowly stroked the rabbit's fur, his fingers moving as softly as drifting clouds, and whispered, "Dear little one, I cannot harm you. Please, go home to your family in the forest. Be safe. Be free." He gently placed the rabbit back on the ground. It paused for a moment, as if understanding his kindness, then bounded away into the green shadows. Kakana returned home, empty-handed, but with a quiet glow in his heart. When his brother saw him, he grew angry and scolded him harshly. But Kakana did not argue. He went quietly to his mother's bedside. Sitting down, he held her fragile hands and made a silent vow in his heart. "From the day I was born, I have never willingly harmed any living being. May the pure strength of this vow bring healing to my mother." As if touched by a soft breeze, his mother's breathing eased. Her eyes slowly opened, and warmth returned to her face like sunlight at dawn. That night, Kakana sat beside her, watching over her with a heart full of peace. The stars shone above like gentle eyes, watching the world sleep. This story whispers to us that true love means protecting life, not only in grand gestures, but also in the softest moments of choice. In choosing not to harm, we become a safe harbor for all beings, and our hearts grow gentle and radiant, like a lamp glowing softly in the night. Story 15. The Servant of the Wealthy Merchant. In the bustling city of Varanasi, there once lived a wealthy merchant named Sudatta. Though his days were filled with business and guests, his heart was always turned toward kindness and generosity. Everyone in his household, from his wife and children to the servants, practiced the 8-precept observance, Uposatha, at least 6 days each month. One day, a new servant came to work at the merchant's home. Eager and hardworking, he did his duties with care and devotion. However, no one had told him that the entire household observed the 8 precepts on certain days. On one such observance day, early in the morning, the merchant instructed his cooks, "Prepare the meal early for the workers. Today they will eat only one meal." The cooks and everyone else in the house followed his instructions carefully. Meanwhile, the new servant continued his chores as usual, unaware of the special day. When he finally returned from his tasks, he noticed a strange stillness. No bustling sounds from the kitchen, no laughter or clinking dishes, just a deep, peaceful silence. Puzzled, he asked a cook, "Where is everyone? Why is it so quiet today?" The cook replied, "They are all keeping the 8 precepts today. They have already finished their meal and are now resting or practicing mindfulness." The servant paused. A gentle warmth spread through his heart. If everyone around me holds precepts and cultivates virtue, how could I remain the only one without it? So he went to the merchant and asked humbly, "Sir, if I take the 8 precepts now, even though it's later in the day, will I still receive the merit?" The merchant answered with a kind smile, "If you take them now, you will receive half the merit you would have gotten if you had begun at dawn. But it is still a beautiful and noble act." Hearing this, the servant thought to himself, "Half the merit is still far better than none at all." With a pure heart, he accepted the precepts, then went to his room to rest and reflect quietly. Having worked hard all day and refrained from food in the evening, by nightfall he began to feel weak. Seeing his condition, the merchant brought him medicine and said softly, "Please, take this medicine. Eat something to regain your strength." But the servant shook his head gently and whispered, "I have vowed to keep my precepts pure, even if it means facing death. I wish to hold this promise until the end." As dawn approached, his body weakened further, and he drifted into a deep, dreamlike state. That very morning, the king of Varanasi was traveling through the city. From his half-dreaming eyes, the servant saw the king's grand procession, shining carriages, silk banners, and golden umbrellas. In a fleeting moment of longing, he thought, how splendid it would be to be a king, surrounded by so much honor and wealth. With that final thought, he passed away quietly. Because of the merit from observing the precepts, he was reborn in the womb of the Queen of Varanasi. When the baby boy was born, he was named Udayana. As he grew, he eventually became king, inheriting his father's throne. Yet deep in his heart, he remembered his past life. He often reflected, all of this kingdom, this glory is the fruit of that one day when I chose to keep the precepts with sincerity. From then on, he practiced even more diligently, nurturing compassion and virtue with each passing day. The Buddha once taught, when one observes the 8 precepts fully, even for a single day and night, the merit surpasses that of a ruler who possesses all the treasures of the world. Such acts bring peace not only in this life, but also blossom into higher rebirths and final liberation. This gentle story reminds us that even a single pure intention, carried out with courage and devotion, can shape entire lifetimes to come, just like a small seed that grows into a vast, sheltering tree. Story 16. The Unyielding Vow. Near Mount Dantava, in a quiet little village surrounded by fields of rice and wildflowers, there lived a kind-hearted layman. Each morning, he would rise before the first bird sang, stepping softly past the dew-kissed grass, feeling the cool earth beneath his feet. One day, he made a special journey to Ambanga Monastery to receive the 8 precepts from the Venerable Bhikkhu Bengala. The ceremony was serene, with the gentle chant of the monks echoing like a soft breeze through the temple halls. As he knelt, he felt a deep peace bloom in his heart, a silent vow to live simply and harmlessly, to protect all life. After the ceremony, he returned home with a quiet glow on his face. But his day was not yet done. His ox needed care, and his fields called to him like old friends, waiting for his touch. When he arrived at the field, he noticed that his ox had wandered off. With worry tugging at his chest, he set off into the nearby forest to search. The forest air was thick and fragrant, with wild herbs and moss. Sunlight spilled through the leaves in scattered golden streams, and small insects hummed in secret rhythms. Deep among the bushes, he finally spotted the ox's hoofprints. As he bent down to look closer, a sudden movement made him freeze. A massive python had silently approached, and in a blink, coiled around his body. Its scales were cold against his skin, its strength pressing down like a mountain. He could feel each coil tighten, breath by precious breath slipping away. In his hand, he still held a sharp knife he had used to cut vines. His heart pounded so hard that it echoed in his ears. All it takes is a single cut, he thought desperately. I can survive if I strike now. Yet in that moment of fear, his mind drifted back to the peaceful monastery, the soft chanting, the warmth of his vow. I have promised, he whispered inwardly, a promise more precious than this life. If I break it now, I would lose the gentle light in my heart forever. Twice more, panic surged, and twice more he wavered. The python pressed tighter, his vision flickered. In those moments, he saw the faces of the monks, the kindness in their eyes, the serene strength in Bhikkhu Bengala's voice. On the third wave of thought, a calm strength rose from deep within. Like moonlight over a still pond, clarity spread across his mind. I would rather offer my body to this forest than break my vow, he resolved firmly. With trembling fingers, he hurled the knife far into the bushes, its sharp glint vanishing among the shadows. He did not want even the thought of harming to tempt him again. At that instant, something extraordinary happened. The python, as if sensing his unwavering resolve and pure heart, paused. Its cold eyes softened, and slowly, almost gently, it loosened its grip. It unwound itself, coil by coil, slid across the leaves, and silently vanished into the forest depths. He lay there, his chest rising and falling with ragged but grateful breaths. Above him, the morning light turned the canopy into 1,000 shimmering jade leaves. Birds began to call softly again, as though blessing his courage. When he finally stood up, his body trembled, but his spirit felt luminous and free, like a vast, clear sky after a summer storm. He returned home that day, not just alive, but deeply alive, carrying the quiet joy of one who has truly kept faith with his deepest promise. And so, this story reminds us, true bravery is not only in saving one's life, but in holding fast to what makes our hearts truly pure and bright. Even in moments of greatest fear, a vow kept can awaken something gentle and miraculous in ourselves and in the world around us. Story 17. When the Heart Opens Its Wings. In the graceful halls of the royal palace at Kosambi, there lived a maid named Kujutara. Though she was just a servant, she was trusted deeply by Queen Samavati. Each day, the king would give her 8 coins to buy fresh flowers to adorn the queen's chambers, bright, fragrant offerings that lit up the quiet rooms like morning sun. Kujutara had a clever mind and nimble fingers, yet for many days she secretly kept half the money, bringing only a portion of flowers back. She believed no one would notice. Such small deceits can sometimes hide quietly in our hearts, like a tiny pebble in a stream. One morning, as she went to the flower seller, he greeted her kindly and said, "Please wait a while today. I have invited the great teacher, the Blessed One, to receive an offering and give a teaching here." Kujutara felt a spark of curiosity, a gentle tug in her heart. She agreed to wait, wondering what sort of person this blessed one might be. As she listened, the Buddha's words flowed like cool water over her restless mind. His voice was steady and calm, touching something deep within her that had long been hidden beneath layers of habit and small untruths. In that precious moment, her heart opened. A sudden, radiant understanding dawned inside her, and she attained the first stage of enlightenment, the fruit of stream entry. Filled with quiet joy, she returned to the palace. That day, she bought all 8 coins worth of flowers, the first time she had ever done so. When she presented the overflowing bundles, Queen Samavati looked surprised and asked gently, "Dear Kujutara, did the king give you more money today? These flowers are so many and so fresh." With newfound honesty shining in her eyes, Kujutara bowed low and replied, "Your Majesty, no. In truth, every other day I kept half the coins for myself. But today, after hearing the Dharma from the Blessed One, I understand. I no longer wish to deceive." The queen watched her closely. She saw not a servant confessing a fault, but a heart transformed, blooming like a lotus at dawn. Instead of anger, Queen Samavati felt deep compassion and admiration, moved by Kujutara's sincerity and the peaceful glow that now radiated from her. The queen said, "If the Dharma can bring such a change, I too wish to taste its sweetness. Will you teach me what you heard?" Kujutara hesitated, feeling humble before the queen, but Queen Samavati insisted and even offered Kujutara her perfumes, jewels, and fine seat, choosing instead to sit on the floor among the other maidens, all waiting with open hearts. When Kujutara began to speak, her words carried the gentle clarity of moonlight on a still pond. Slowly, the teachings entered the queen's heart and the hearts of 50 attendants, until all attained the fruit of stream entry. From that day on, Kujutara was honored not just as a servant, but as a beloved teacher in the palace. The Buddha himself praised her as the foremost among laywomen who excelled in listening and sharing the Dharma. This story teaches us that the true jewel is not power or wealth, but the precious understanding that brings freedom and peace to the heart. Even someone in the humblest role can become a guide to others if they truly open their heart to the teachings and let compassion blossom. The gentle ripple of one awakened heart can spread far, like moonlight spilling across a quiet lake, soft, silent, and endlessly bright. Story 18. The Garuda King and the Sage. There was a mighty bird king known as Garuda, who lived in a great cotton tree near the eastern ocean shore. Possessing immense strength and supernatural powers, he could create fierce winds with his wings and part the ocean waters to seize dragons, bringing them back to the snowy Himalayas as food. At that time, a hunter from Kasikarafa left his family and became a sage, practicing asceticism in the forest near the sea. Nearby stood a large banyan tree where he often rested and walked in meditation. One day, Garuda caught a dragon and carried it past the banyan tree, in fear of death. The dragon wrapped its tail tightly around the tree trunk, not noticing. Garuda pulled with all his might, uprooting the tree along with the dragon and flying off to devour his prey at the cotton tree. The banyan tree crashed into the ocean with a thunderous sound that shook the area. Realizing what happened, Garuda grew concerned. This banyan tree was where the sage practiced. He thought, could this be a wrongdoing? Transforming himself into a young man, Garuda went to the sage's hermitage and saw the sage leveling the ground where the tree once stood. Feigning ignorance, the young man asked, "Why is there a hollow space here? What happened to the earth?" The sage calmly replied, "The bird king captured a dragon. Out of fear, the dragon wrapped its tail around this banyan tree. The bird king, using all his strength, pulled up the tree along with the dragon." The young man asked, "Was the bird king guilty for uprooting the tree by accident?" The sage answered, "No. He acted without intention, and thus bears no guilt." He continued, "Was the dragon guilty then?" The sage gently shook his head. "The dragon too is blameless. It was only trying to save its life." Hearing these words, Garuda felt reassured, revealing his true identity. He said, "I am the bird king. I came to seek your wisdom. I am deeply moved by your words. I have a powerful mantra called Alambayana that I wish to offer you." The sage smiled softly. "You may return. I have no need for the mantra." Garuda insisted out of gratitude and respect, eventually leaving after the sage accepted it. Later, a poor hunter wandered into the forest, ready to end his life. Reaching the sage's hut, he asked to stay and serve. The sage, seeing his sincerity, decided to share the mantra with him after much encouragement. The hunter learned it and soon left. Walking along the Yamuna River, he recited the mantra aloud. At that time, the dragon princess's wives of Buridatta had surfaced to play and had left a brilliant mani jewel on the sandy shore. Hearing the mantra, they believed Garuda himself had arrived and fled, leaving the jewel behind. The hunter found the jewel, overjoyed at its brilliance. Soon, he met Somadatta and his father, who recognized the mani jewel given to them long ago by Buridatta. Somadatta warned, "This jewel can bring blessings if kept properly, but if misused, it will only bring disaster." The hunter refused to part with it, confident in his newfound power. Somadatta's father, greedy for the jewel, convinced the hunter to betray Buridatta and led him to the place where Buridatta was practicing in seclusion. Despite his son's pleas not to betray Buridatta, the father guided the hunter, ignoring warnings and moral obligations. The hunter captured Buridatta and forced him to perform humiliating tricks for crowds, pulling him from village to village. Buridatta endured all pain without hatred, keeping his precepts pure. Eventually, they reached Benares. The hunter demanded an audience with the king, arranging a grand performance. Meanwhile, Buridatta's mother, Queen Samudaja, had a terrifying dream of a dark figure cutting off her arm. Overwhelmed with worry, she stopped eating and sleeping. Her sons saw her suffering and resolved to search for Buridatta. The eldest brother, Sudarsana, transformed into a sage to travel discreetly among humans. His brothers searched the heavens and mountains. Sudarsana tracked Buridatta to Benares. Seeing his tortured brother performing, he was deeply moved. Buridatta, recognizing Sudarsana in the crowd, broke protocol, slithering to him, bowing and shedding tears. Seeing this, the hunter panicked and tried to calm Sudarsana, but Sudarsana revealed his true power. Summoning their sister, Akamuji, who had transformed into a tiny frog, they performed a dramatic confrontation. Akamuji emitted a deadly venom, which Sudarsana controlled, threatening to destroy the entire kingdom if necessary. Terrified, the hunter begged for mercy and agreed to release Buridatta, but it was too late. He was consumed by the consequences of his actions and died. Buridatta transformed into his true, radiant form, adorned like a divine being. Together with Sudarsana and Akamuji, he returned to the Naga realm, welcomed by his father Dasaratha and mother Samudaja. Somadatta's father was also captured and punished severely. Somadatta, on the other hand, was honored for his loyalty and moral courage. Buridatta then taught true Dharma, dispelling misconceptions about Brahmin rituals and explaining the path of virtue. Finally, they reunited with their human relatives, reaffirming bonds of family and compassion. Buridatta continued to uphold his vows until the end of his life, eventually ascending to the heavenly realm. Story 19. The Beautiful Woman by the Stream. When the Buddha resided on Vulture Peak near Rajagaha, there lived a young woman named Lotus Blossom in the city. Her beauty was unmatched. Her radiant face, graceful figure, and delicate features surpassed anyone in the entire kingdom. Adorned in silks and jewels, she captured the hearts of princes, noble sons, and ministers' heirs. Everyone admired and cherished her like a rare gem. Yet one day, a sudden thought arose in her heart. She longed to leave worldly life behind and pursue the spiritual path. Resolute in her decision, she set out to find the Buddha. On her way, she stopped by a flowing stream to rest and drink. As she bent down to wash her hands, she saw her reflection on the water's surface, rosy, glowing skin, lustrous black hair, and a form more beautiful than most could dream of. A subtle regret stirred within her heart. Few are born with such beauty. How could I possibly abandon this rare gift and throw away my youth to live as a wandering nun? Shouldn't I enjoy life to the fullest first? Why rush to renounce all pleasures when I have so much to relish? With these thoughts, she turned back. Her noble intention dissolved like mist at dawn. The Buddha, aware that Lotus Blossom's time for awakening had come, sent a divine being disguised as a woman even more stunning than her beyond all measure of earthly beauty. This woman walked toward Lotus Blossom from the opposite direction. Lotus Blossom, enchanted, approached and asked gently, "Dear sister, where are you from? Where are your parents, husband, or family? Why do you walk alone without a single companion?" The woman replied, "I have just come from the city and am on my way home." She added warmly, "It feels fated that we meet here today. Though strangers, we are both daughters of noble households. Why don't we sit by the stream together, rest for a while, and share our stories?" Lotus Blossom joyfully agreed. They sat on the riverbank and began to share their thoughts and feelings, quickly forming a bond. After a while, the radiant woman laid her head on Lotus Blossom's lap and fell into a deep sleep. Suddenly, Lotus Blossom felt a coldness on her leg. She looked down, shocked to see that the beautiful woman had died. Her body was now bloated, putrid, oozing with foul fluids, hair fallen out, teeth loosened, limbs disjointed. Insects and worms crawled everywhere. Seeing this horrifying transformation, Lotus Blossom trembled and cried out, "Oh, just moments ago, she was so lovely, yet now her body is so repulsive, decaying in an instant. How could my own body, equally impermanent, serve as a source of pleasure and pride? How foolish to cling to this fleeting form." Filled with disillusionment and urgency, she rose and continued on her path to Vulture Peak to seek the Buddha. When she arrived, she respectfully bowed and shared with him everything she had witnessed. The Buddha spoke gently. "There are 4 things one cannot rely on in this world. What are they? Youth will turn to old age. Health will fade into death. Loved ones will eventually separate. Wealth gathered will one day be scattered." Hearing these words, Lotus Blossom felt immense joy and clarity. She realized deeply that the body is illusory and life swiftly passes, while only nirvana offers true and lasting peace. With great sincerity, she knelt before the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, please accept me as a nun. I wish to devote myself entirely to the path." The Buddha answered softly, "Excellent, excellent." After ordination, Lotus Blossom diligently practiced, contemplating deeply on impermanence. In time, she attained peaceful realization and unwavering bliss. Story 20. On the path to seeking. Sariputta and Moggallana were very close friends, both born into noble families near Rajagaha. One day, they went together to watch a grand festival in the city. While observing a theatrical performance, a deep reflection arose in both of their minds. Life is truly like an actor on stage. Today he wears a crown and beard, playing a king or a father. Tomorrow he sheds his costume and becomes just another performer. Life changes constantly. What lasting joy can there be in such fleeting roles? With the same thought, They both resolved to renounce worldly life and seek true liberation. However, they had not yet encountered the Buddha's teachings. Instead, they studied under a teacher named Sanjaya. Due to their intelligence, they quickly mastered everything Sanjaya had to offer, but they realized that his teaching did not lead to true freedom, so they made a promise to each other. We shall part ways and search in different directions. Whoever finds the true path first must come back and inform the other. Thus, each friend set off on his own. At that time, the Buddha had already attained enlightenment and had 61 arahant disciples. He sent them out to share the Dhamma far and wide. One of these was Venerable Asaji, one of the original 5 ascetics who traveled to Rajagaha and stayed at the Bamboo Grove Monastery. One morning, as Venerable Asaji was going for alms, Sariputta, after finishing his own morning alms round, was wandering alone and came upon Asaji. Seeing the serene and composed manner of the elder monk, Sariputta was deeply moved and thought, never before have I seen a renunciant so dignified, so radiant. Surely this must be an enlightened one, perhaps an arahant. I must approach and ask about his teacher and his practice. But now is his alms time. I should not disturb him. I shall wait until he finishes. With that resolve, he quietly followed behind. When Asaji finished collecting just enough food, he sought a quiet spot to eat. Sariputta hurried forward, spread out a mat, offered water, and sat respectfully at his side. After the meal, Sariputta asked gently, "Venerable sir, you seem to be a monk of great purity and radiance. Who is your teacher? Under whom have you gone forth? What teachings do you follow?" Asaji replied, "Friend, I have gone forth under the Blessed One, the great sage of the Sakyan clan. He is my teacher, and it is from him that I have learned the Dhamma." Sariputta continued, "What does your master teach?" Asaji thought carefully. Sariputta is renowned for his keen intellect. I must speak concisely yet meaningfully. So he answered humbly, "Friend, I am new to this training and cannot expound deeply, but I can share the essence in brief." Sariputta urged him on, "Please, venerable sir, even a few words will suffice." Then Asaji recited a verse. "All phenomena arise from causes. Their cessation depends on the ending of those causes. The great sage has taught thus." Upon hearing just these lines, Sariputta instantly realized the profound truth and attained the first stage of awakening, stream entry. He exclaimed, "That is enough. Where is the Blessed One now dwelling?" Saji replied, "He resides at the Bamboo Grove Monastery." Sariputta bowed deeply toward that direction and said, "I must go find my dear friend to share this truth." He sought out Moggallana and recounted Asaji's teaching. Moggallana too attained stream entry upon hearing it. Together, they went to see their former teacher, Sanjaya, hoping to guide him as well, but Sanjaya declined, asking, "Are there more wise people or more foolish people in this world?" Sariputta answered, "There are far more foolish people than wise." Sanjaya then said, "Then go to follow your wise teacher. Leave the fools for me." Seeing his obstinacy and pride, Sariputta and Moggallana left him and proceeded to the bamboo grove, 500 of Sanjaya's disciples, inspired by the two friends, followed and joined them. Overwhelmed with anger at losing so many followers, Sanjaya, unable to humble himself and unwilling to be anyone's disciple, vomited blood and died. His fate illustrated the saying, "The proud would rather be the head of a dog than the tail of a lion," or as another old saying goes, "Better to lead a flock of chickens than to follow a group of phoenixes." As the Buddha taught, patience, virtuous conduct, having the chance to meet noble sages, and engaging in wise discussions are four supreme blessings. Sanjaya, lacking these qualities and overcome by arrogance, chose the wrong path and met his downfall.